Hey everyone, this week I was teaching full stack web development, so I thought I would take this opportunity to share with you a little bit about web development and also whether you should or you should not learn web development as an individual. Now, to give you a little bit of background and context about web development, when I first started using internet, it was about year 1994, 1993, 1994. So that was when I was 10, 11 years old back then. So not many people are using internet at that time. So even if you were to download an image from the internet, it would take about at least 10-15 minutes, a very small pictures, and not to mention if there is any animated GIF. So usually that's where we call the very first version of Web 1.0. So it's one-way traffic. Basically is the publisher, the web publishers, they are the one that prepare the content, and then they deliver it to you and you consume the content. So a lot of the websites at that time are, for example, like book website, publishers websites, or some content providers. In Malaysia, we don't have too many local websites, so we're basically browsing overseas websites from US, UK and Taiwan to learn about their stuff. And most of the time we read news because it was hard to get latest information about foreign countries at that time. So my parents used it to read news, and then I personally use it to go to news group, look for some mini games to download if there is any, or look for some walkthroughs about the games that I was playing at that time. I remember in high school, right, the whole class, the entire classroom, there are only two people, which myself and my friend who has internet access at home. We're using a very slow modem. My very first modem was 14.4. I do use the one that's slower. I think it's 640 or 720 kbps. I used it for a little while. I can't really remember, but when I first started using it, it was 14.4 jarring and TMNet, if you still remember it. And then we need to dial to the server, make a funny noise, and then we are connected to the internet. But the funny part about the internet at that time is that some household, right, if you have a shared line, or if anybody, like you have a parallel line, if somebody from downstairs pick up the phone and then your internet connection basically will be disconnected, and there isn't anything like today, like you can resume the connection at that time. So you really have to re-download whatever you have downloaded. Okay, so that's a bit of the background. And then fast forward, I think 1996, 97, we start to have 28.8 kbps modem and 33.6. So yeah, I start to be able to play online games with my friends, like FIFA, like soccer, or NBA games. That's a little bit of the history. And then if some of you remember, we have RRC, Internet Relay Chat, so we still go to MRC channels to get to know the friends around the areas. Some of us do discuss things like SPM questions. Yeah, basically we have channels that talk about all sorts of things. And then about year 2000 plus, we start to use RRC to download movie clips, very small movie clips, and also MP3s. I still remember at that time, if I were to download an MP3, it would take me about 30 minutes for a song. And then sometimes you get DC, right, disconnected. You get very upset because you have to rejoin the queue and wait for a very long time just to download the song. For websites and web applications itself, we don't have much user interactivity. The best that you can do is about sending emails or sign your friend's guest book. That's about it. We don't even have a keyword-based search engines like Google that you're seeing today. Basically, the search engine at that time was the biggest ones were Yahoo, and then Lycos, Excite, Alta Vista. We use it like a directory, basically, so that you can search through different things and go by their categories. And then under every different categories, they have a subcategories, and after subcategories, they have subcategories. And eventually, it leads you to the website that has been indexed in the website. So that's pretty much what Web 1.0 is about. And in Web 1.0, the programming language that we use are similar to today. So we mainly use HTML and CSS. For backend, we use something called CGI. And then later on, after PHP is developed, then only we move on to PHP. JavaScript was introduced around 1994, 1995 that time, and Netscape was the first browsers that announced that they are going to support JavaScript. That's supposed to make internet a lot quicker at that time, so we has different interactivities, and it add a lot of fancy stuff to the web page. So fast forward a few years later, we have Web 2.0. That is where users start to generate content themselves, which is pretty similar to what we are today. So it started off with blog posts. So people start to write blogs and users are allowed to leave comments. You start to be able to interact with other people. And that's where everything starts to boom, right? You get to see things like JavaScript, and then you see Flash, you see Java applets, and then you see Silverlight as well. So these are third-party plugins that run on top of your Internet Explorer, so to give different types of interactivities between yourself and your other users. So most of the time you are playing games or play movie clips on the internet. Then later on, as time goes by, HTML5 takes off and CSS and JavaScript is getting more and more matured, and eventually everything just converge back to what you are seeing today, HTML5, CSS and JavaScript. You don't have to learn so many different types of third-party plugins and how to write programs for those plugins. And for Web 2.0, we also have other interactivities today like social medias, but we also go through the age of different types of things, right? You remember Neopets, you remember Friendsters, you remember MySpace as well. And this is where we are today. And we have Facebook, so mainly for social media, sharing different types of content, statuses. We have Twitters, mainly a platform for us to write short text messages. And then we have Instagram for us to share photos, and of course YouTube for us to share videos. Now in terms of web applications development, the front end development has been pretty stable, meaning that we have HTML and then we slowly evolve into HTML2, HTML4, HTML5 today, and then we have CSS and CSS3 today, and JavaScript been through a lot of different versions as well, and today we have ES5, ES6 and the pipeline. What we have a lot for front end is the framework. So we have seen a lot of different frameworks that come out. Some of the frameworks are mainly used for CSS, some of the frameworks are mainly used for JavaScript, and then we have dedicated frameworks like React.js, AngularJS, and also Vue.js for front-end binding. Right, those are the different types of front-end programming. But in terms of the language itself, it's still mainly HTML and CSS and also JavaScript. Now on the back end, the most popular language that's used today are still PHP. So I have been using PHP for many years. Before that, I used a little bit of ASP and also ASP.NET written in C#. Now you can use Visual Basics to write web applications as well if you want to. And then later on I started to move into Python. So by using Python, I'm using Django and Flask as the web development framework. Of course, in between I've been through a lot of different languages like Ruby on Rails, for example. So that gives you a brief overall idea about where we are now and then what we have been through in the past 5 to 6 years. Now you as an individual, right, what you need to learn is, should you learn web development? Let's talk about why you should learn web development first. If you take a look in the next 3 to 5 years, right, everything will be online. Yeah, more and more services will be put online. For example, your ticketing services, your air ticket, your accommodation services, your transport services. A lot of things we're slowly migrating it online, right? And all these online activities on online services, if you were to build them for your business, or if you were to build them for some other people like your clients, right, you definitely need to utilize the skills of web development. Now some of you might be thinking like, oh Dr. Lau, I just want to build my own startups, right? I just want to run my own business, and also I probably want to use mobile because mobile is going to be the next big thing. Now that is correct, but even though you are building a mobile applications, right, behind the scene your back ends are still running on the back end servers that is based on web architecture. Remember, on web development, we have front end, we have back end, we have database, and also we have the servers which host our service. So even if you have a mobile applications that you want to retrieve data, you still need to retrieve the data from your web servers that reads the data from the database and using API. Now, if you're running a startup companies, right, many people will say, oh, I don't really need to know tech, right? I can hire a CTO. But with the many startups that I've mentored before, right, most of the CTOs and most of the startup companies, a major part of the reason that they fail is because the CTO and the CEO, they don't really understand what each other is doing. So even as a CEO, I would still recommend that you have a little bit of web development knowledge so that you know what your team is doing, you know what is the decision that your CTO is making, so that you have a broad understanding about where they are heading in general. I always use the same analogy when I teach my students is that imagine you're running a restaurant today. Are you saying that you can hire a head chef but you yourself don't really know how to cook at all? If you don't really know how to cook at all, right, then later on when you want to scale your business, you want to put things into system, processes and workflows, you will have a lot of unnecessary I would say frictions and arguments with your CTO and also your tech guy. So better you just pick up how to develop web applications your own. So some of you might be saying like, Dr. Lau, hey, I don't really want to become a tech guy. I don't want to run a tech startup. I'm just a lawyer. I'm just an accountant. My job doesn't really involve tech. Does that mean that I still need to learn web programming? Yes and no, because even though if you're just a normal businessman, right, when you're building your own web applications, if you know web development, you can save a lot of money, a lot of cost by hiring someone to help you. For example, if you want to build a website for your law firm today, you can just go and purchase a template and then get yourself a WordPress hosting service and host your own WordPress website with probably $5 to $10 maximum per month, and then you have your own company website up and running, right? And that means you don't have to rely on any tech guy that helps you to do that, and you can easily get web applications. And not to mention, right, every time when your website goes down or you want to make some minor changes, you don't have to always ring up the tech guy, because a lot of things that you are fixing, right, it's just a little bit of HTML, a little bit of CSS, installing some JavaScript third-party plugins, but that's about it. Even digital marketers does that too. The next question that you might have is, does it mean that everybody needs to learn web development? Who are the people that really not suitable to become a web developers or take web development as a career? Often when I see students they struggle is because they're struggling with the programming language of the back-end servers. So a web application is not complicated, a web development is not complicated. It's quite complex in the sense that you have a lot of components you need to handle. So not only you need to handle the front end, right, your look and feel of your website, you need to handle the back end, you need to set up the servers, you need to make sure that the server is up and running 24/7, and you need to handle the connection between your servers to database and to retrieve the right data to present to the users. And then later on you need to handle all the others different services like sending email, integrating with third-party payment services, and also analytics like installing Google Analytics and deploying it to the servers, and also scaling up your servers. Let's say your current servers can only handle 50 concurrent visitors at a time, and suddenly one day if you have 100 or 500 users that want to visit your website together when your company grows, what should you do? Those type of scalability issues is the one that scares most people off. For those people, if you have tried programming and you realize that back-end programming, whether it's in Node.js or PHP or Python, is not really a thing for you, then you probably are not suitable to begin a career in web development. But with that said, right, you can still pick up some of the basic skills and knowledge on HTML and CSS that will definitely help you and your personal growth in the long run. So at this stage, right, if you are not sure whether web development is something that suits you and whether you should begin a career in web development, right, there are a lot of tools out there that you can start to learn web development on your own with no cost. all of the stuff that I teach, right, they are usually free and open source software. In web development, you can get all the tools and language and the frameworks for free. The only thing that you have to pay is the domain name and also the web hosting services. But even that, you can get some credits and discount coupons from the service provider as well. So in order to learn web applications, there are a few ways that you can start. Number one, start to learn things about front end, right? Learn about HTML, learn about CSS, and learn about JavaScript. And then from there, you explore the back-end languages such as PHP, Node.js, Python, and see which one of the language you can actually understand the logic and understand how things work. And then from there, you look at, you just pick one of the database that you can use it to store and retrieve data, such as SQL or Firebase to start with. Then you can choose one of the free web hosting services such as AWS or Heroku. So they do offer some free and trial service that you can learn how to deploy your websites and can give people the URL so that people can visit your website as well. I'll put down the links to these services that I mentioned in the description so that you can check it out and give it a try yourself. Now, if you have any questions that's related to web development, feel free to leave it in the comment section and I'll help to answer. And if you like this video, don't forget to like it and share it with your friends whom you think that they might be benefit from this tutorial, especially those friends who are currently learning web development or thinking on how to begin a web development career. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you and I'll see you next time.